Hey everyone, welcome to the next chapter. My name is Christopher Navo, and I'm going to be your host. If this is your first time joining, well, chances are you're not alone because this is my first official video. I have put out an intro and a channel setup video that's going to be linked at the end of this video. Feel free to check that out. This video is all about 4 popular fantasy authors I have not read yet, kind of, but want to. This is going to be part of a little mini series. I'm breaking these down by 4 authors each because otherwise this video could go on for a long time. How I'm going to break this down for you is I'm going to talk about each author, a little bit about their most popular works, and then I'm going to give my final thoughts on maybe why I haven't read these yet. And then I'll probably decide on where I'm going to begin with this author's work. So without any further ado, let's get started. Number 1, Jim Butcher. Jim Butcher has published over 25 novels, spread across 3 original series and 1 Marvel novel featuring Spider-Man. He has also contributed to several anthology collections. His most notable series, the still ongoing Dresden Files, alone expands over 17 novels, short story collections, and even a graphic novel. The first book in this series, Stormfront, was released in 2007. This series is an urban fantasy that follows private investigator Harry Dresden, who also happens to be a wizard. Living in modern-day Chicago, Dresden solves crimes of the supernatural. Butcher's second popular series, the completed Codex Alera, consists of 6 novels, starting with Furies of Calderon, released in 2004 and completed in 2009 with First Lord's Fury. The series is more of a traditional fantasy set in the world of Karna, where humanity bonds with elementals called Furies. It follows the journey of Tavi, a young boy that is outcasted due to possessing no magical bond, yet finds himself in the middle of many conflicts and the power struggles that threaten Alera. Butcher's newest series, Cinder Spires, starts with the Aeronaut's Windlass, released in 2015, an original steampunk-inspired world that follows Captain Francis Grimm and his crew as they adventure the world of floating spires on an airship. So my thoughts on where to start with Jim Butcher. Obviously, my first go-to was the Codex Alera. I am more of an epic high fantasy reader. Haven't heard anything too much about this series. I heard from some it's an okay series. Obviously, his most popular, the Dresden Files, I was turned off for a long time from it. I'm not an urban fantasy reader, and I tire vampires and werewolves. But I'm kind of piquing the interest a little more that I get to know about what this series actually is about. I've also read Jade City, which is an urban fantasy, and more specifically related to Dresden Files, I've read Kevin Hearn's The Iron Druid Chronicles series, which I really enjoyed, and I heard is very similar to this. So if you've read any of these series, let me know what your thoughts on where to start. But I am kind of leaning more towards the Dresden Files series. Number 2, Jenny Wirtz. Jenny Wirtz published around 20 novels. One large series currently consists of 11 books alone. She has written several trilogies, including the Empire trilogy, written with fellow fantasy author Raymond Feist, several more standalone books, and numerous short stories. Wirtz's first trilogy, The Cycle of Fire, starts with Stormwarden, released in 1984, followed by Keeper of the Keys, and ended with Shadowfane in 1988. Set in the world of Ethera, follows Tian and Jarek caught in a world of magic, survival, and the threat of demons seeking the destruction of humanity. Jenny's current running series, The War of Light and Shadow, is also her longest, starting with The Curse of the Mistwraith, released in 1993, with, as of this recording, the 11th book, Song of the Mysteries, currently in the works, will conclude this series. War of Light and Shadow takes place in the world of Ethera as well, populated by humans, dragons, and elves, and centers on 2 half-brothers, Lyasir and Erethan, bonded by a curse, and caught in a world of war, racial conflicts, and political factions. So yeah, I'm not too sure why I haven't picked up any of Wartz's books yet. They've been around for a long time, especially during the 90s when I was actively reading fantasy. I could have been shopping the fantasy section and, usually I start with the A's and by the time I get to the W's, I have a pile of books or I'm ready to go. Hey, lame excuse maybe, but I can't think of any other reason why I would have not have picked up any of her books. It sounds like Cycle of Fire is the place to start because both that and the War of Light and Shadow take place in the same world. But I think because not only chronologically, but I think published wise, Cycle of Fire came out first. And it's a trilogy, so I can cut down a little bit on any kind of like long epic fantasies for the time being. But I am excited to read this author. If you read either of these series or any of her other trilogies, including the Empire trilogy, which she co-wrote with Raymond Feist, I'd be very interested to know.
Number 3, Guy Gabriel Kay. Guy Gabriel Kay has written around 15 novels, including a book of poetry. Most of his works are set in fictional worlds, yet periods of real-life history influence many of these titles. Some novels share the same worlds, such as Under Heaven and River of Stars, both set in the fictional 8th century China, but most of his works are standalone novels. Clear exceptions to this are the Fionavar Tapestry, which consists of 3 books, and the Serentine Mosaic series, which is a duology. 3 of Kay's most popular books and series. Togano was released in 1990 and set in a world called the Peninsula of the Palm, which reflects that of Italy set in the Renaissance era. Our main character, Allison, leads a group of rebels to their homeland of Tagana, where 2 sorcerers have stolen the memories of those that reside there. The Lions of Al-Rassan, released in 1995 and set in a world like that of medieval Spain, 3 cultures hold an unsteady balance of political and religious power, leading to conflict on who will control the city of Al-Rassan. The story follows the point of view characters from each of these cultures, where eventually their paths will cross. The Serentine Mosaic, starting with sailing to Serentium, released in 1998, then followed up by Lord of Emperors. This duology is set in a world similar to that of Byzantium and the reign of Justinian I in the 6th century. The book follows Caius, a mosaicist, who is commissioned by the emperor to create a mosaic in the sanctuary of the sun god Jad. Through his journey, Caius will be pulled into both political and religious intrigue by those who seek power and ambition.
So Guy Gabriel Kay was actually the last one I added to this list for this video because I thought I initially read Tagana a while back ago. After putting together the blurb and a little bit of research into his book history, I don't think I did. I don't know if it's another book, I'm confusing it with him, but when it comes down to it, I don't think I've read anything by this author, which surprises me because I love historical fiction and I love fantasy, and he actually blends the two into each other, taking a lot of our real life history and putting it into a fantasy world, which sounds really cool. Have you read any of Guy Gabriel Kay? I think the ones I mentioned, Tagana, The Lions of Al-Rassan, and the Serentine Mosaics sound the most appealing to me, but let me know of any that you've read that I did not mention that you think would be a great place to start. Otherwise, I will probably start with Tagana.
Number 4, Brandon Sanderson. Sanderson's first published novel, Elantris, was released in 2005, nearly 2 decades later, with over 50 books in publication, including adult and young adult fantasy, graphic novels, numerous short stories, completing Robert Jordan's opus with the last 3 books of The Wheel of Time, and more books on the way, including 4 new secret projects coming out in just 2023 alone. It is needless to say, Sanderson is one of the leading voices of the fantasy genre today. For simplicity's sake, today we'll just focus on his biggest contribution, the Cosmere universe, particularly Mistborn Eras 1 and 2, and the Stormlight Archive. Mistborn Era 1 is often described as a gateway to new readers of fantasy due to Sanderson's approachable prose and impressive world building. Era 1 is a trilogy. Starting with The Final Empire, released in 2006, the main protagonist is a young thief named Vin, an allomancer who can ingest metal to gain magical abilities. Vin, in her adventures, joins a rebellion against the Lord Ruler to end his tyranny. But there are even more powerful forces in play as the series continues. Mistborn Era 2, a 4-book series that started with the Alloy of Law, released in 2011 and takes place in an advanced industrial age from that of Era 1. The magic system of allomancy has evolved, and in this series we follow a lawkeeper named Wax and his friend and assistant Wayne as they return to the city of Elendel to face the threats of the dangerous political landscape. There are apparently even 2 more eras in the works for the Mistborn series. The Stormlight Archive is Brandon's projected 10-book series, an ongoing epic fantasy. Starting with The Way of Kings, released in 2010, the series is set on the world of Rashar, a land ravaged by powerful storms and creatures known as the Spren that appear in certain conditions. The series follows 3 primary points of view: Kaladin, a former soldier and slave; Dalinar, a nobleman; and Shallan, a young woman seeking to become a scholar. So at the beginning of this video, I said right after I said popular authors I have not read. Here's where it comes in. I have read Brandon Sanderson. I read his 3 concluding books to The Wheel of Time that Robert Jordan ended with in Knife of Dreams, and Brandon picked up with The Gathering Storm. Considering how large this undertaking was, I thought Brandon Sanderson did an amazing job. I wasn't thrilled with a lot of the character wrap-ups, but the last battle I thought was amazing, and just the way he tries to mimic Robert Jordan in a lot of his narrative, I thought he did a great job. I would have probably noticed that more if I went right from Knife of Dreams into Gathering Storm, which was Brandon's first book into The Wheel of Time. But because I read Knife of Dreams right when it came out, and then, of course, years when Gathering Storm came out is when I picked that up. So I didn't really notice the change too much. But like I said, considering there's a ton of POVs to wrap up and then the final conclusion to this 14-book opus, I thought Brandon did an okay job. I went immediately into Stormlight Archive, and I think I made a mistake doing so after reading one epic fantasy and trying to go into another. I had to DNF Stormlight Archive twice, not because I absolutely despised everything that was going on, to not go into any non-spoilers. I loved Kaladin and the whole Bridge 4 scenes, and Shallan was a joy to read too. I think my problem was Dalinar a little bit. I thought his chapters were a little slow, and I understand he is actually the one character that really just takes off later. I'm going to come back to this, but I haven't picked up a Brandon Sanderson book since, so that is why he is on this list. All in all, I'm really excited to start my Cosmere journey. Whether I go back to trying to read the Stormlight Archive again, or switch over to Mistborn Era 1, or any of his standalones, I also have Trust on the Emerald Sea on order. Regardless, I'm really excited to try and read Brandon Sanderson. Well, everybody, that's it for me. Again, leave a comment. Let us know if you read any of these authors. If you have, what was your favorite series by each of them? If you have not, maybe a read-along is in order in the future. Otherwise, my name is Christopher Navo. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. And I hope to see you in the next chapter. Take care. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the first chapter. Not even the name of my channel. The Stormlight Archive.
So I never read. Not bread.
Number